So all of the time, I mean every single day, I am asked, what should I play? What game should I play? I've got this gigantic library of games and I have no idea which one to pick. Or there's an infinite amount of content on Netflix or YouTube and I don't know what to watch. I don't know what to listen to. I don't know where to go to eat. So I built this in Python. What it does is it takes a list of your things and it chooses which one you should do. Like today, I'm gonna be playing some Fall Guys. The computer has decided I'm playing Fall Guys. It solves the problem of I have too many things to choose. What should I do? So let's build this. All right, so I've created a brand new project here in Replit, and we're gonna start there. Replit is an incredible resource that it's just a free code editor that's on the internet. It's awesome, awesome, awesome to use, and we're gonna be working through this. By the way, my name is Steven. I am a professional Python developer, also a co-founder and teacher at codenerd.io. If you want to chat with us at any time during the show, head over to codenerd.io. That's the chat that I check. It's an awesome resource. There are tons and tons of learning materials, but let's actually get to building. Okay, so the first thing that we need to do is we need to import the random library. So I'm gonna do that right up top there. That gives me access to everything that the random library has to offer. Then I'm going to create a list of all of the games or songs or restaurants that I want to pick between. I'm gonna create a variable called games, and I'm gonna set that equal to square brackets, a list. And each list is going to, or each item in the list is gonna be a string. It's just a name of the game or a name of the restaurant or whatever you are picking between. So I'm gonna say COD for Call of Duty. I'm also gonna put in there Among Us. I've been playing that way too much lately. Don't tell my business partners. We're gonna throw in some Minecraft in there. Let's do Fall Guys. What other games? What other games should we put in there? Maybe some Roblox. Again, if you want to learn how to build Roblox, codenerd.io. We'll teach you all about that. So now I have this list of games to choose from. And you can make this list anything you want. It's totally up to you. But the beautiful thing about a list is that they're all the same type of thing. They're all a string. And a string is just characters. It's just a word or letters or something like that. Now that I have a list of things, I want the computer to think for itself and to choose a random thing. Well, we've imported this random library, which is super useful because it comes with some functions that we can use. And one of them is called random.choice. And it's gonna choose a random item from that list. Now, where are we gonna store that? Well, let's actually store it in a variable. So let's type out random_game. Let's set that to random.choice. Now, the choice is a function. A function takes a parameter. This function takes a parameter that is a list. You need to pass in a list for it to choose from. So we're gonna pass in our games list. Now that we have this stored here, we can actually see what it does by printing it out to the screen. So we can print out random_game. What this does is it says, whatever's in here, print to the screen. Well, this variable references the random choice, which is going to choose a random number. That number is going to correspond to a position in the list. It will grab that, reference it here, store it here, and then reference it down here. Let's run it. Let's see if it works. Come on, Replit. You can do it. You can do it, Replit. Come on, Replit. You can do it. Let's try it again. Come on, Replit. You can do it. Come on, I believe in you. I believe in you, Replit. I believe in you. Let's copy that. I think Replit crashed on us. That's great. But I did copy my code, so if anything gets lost, I can paste it back in. All right, looks like it saved everything. Let's hit run, and boom, looks like we're playing some Fall Guys. It's funny, it picked the same game here as it did in the intro. Let's try it again and see if it picked Fall Guys again. It picked Fall Guys again. There we go, Among Us. So we don't have very many choices in our list, so it looks like it's not picking randomly, but it is picking randomly. Random just means that it can do the same thing again. It did pick a different game, but you know, randomness in computers, it's not always exactly randomness or what humans perceive as randomness. And this is all good and great for somebody who's actually programming this project. But what if we want to give this to one of our friends to use? Well, they wouldn't be able to change the code. They have no idea what programming is. They're not as cool as you are. So let's go ahead and let's change this up a little bit. Let's allow the user to input a list of their items, and then we choose from there. So I'm going to go ahead and erase the list here, the list of games. And now what I want to do is I want to get some input from the user. And there is a built-in Python function called input that we can use to do exactly that. So we can do input underscore games equals, so this is a variable that's going to store the answer to this input. Input a list of games separated by commas. So this tells the user, go ahead and enter in a list of all of the games that you want to choose from, and then, but make sure you separate it by commas. So if we comment out this real quick here, comment out line 5 because we actually don't have that list created yet, and run it, we can see that it's asking us to input a list of games separated by commas. And then the user can, at this point, enter in that list of games. Now we're getting a red squiggly here because we haven't actually created that variable yet. All right. We have a way for the user to enter in their data, but it's just going to be a single string. How do we choose a random thing from a string? There's no delineation. There's no difference between the first letter of the string and the last letter of the string. Well, because we asked them to input their list of games using commas to separate them, we can actually use something called split to split that up and store it into a list. So we can create that games list again, and this time we're going to grab that input games string and we're going to say split. And split is a function. The function takes a parameter. That parameter is the icon, the character that we're looking for to split at. So if we said separate your list by slashes, or separate your list by spaces, or separate your list by hashtags, any of those separate things can be passed into the split function. So we can say comma. Now we're going to split each item after the comma, which means everything that comes before a comma is a unique thing that gets added to our list. Let's try it out. So I'm going to go ahead and stop. I'm going to run again. Input a list. Okay, so we can say COD, comma, Fall Guys, comma, Among Us. So see how we didn't say split it by a space? Some of these games are multiple words. We don't want to split it by a space because then Fall and Guys are two different games. I've never played the game Fall. I've also never played the game Guys. It doesn't sound like it'd be super interesting to play. We could also put Minecraft in here. We could put Cyberpunk. We could do any of those. Then when we hit return, it chooses a random item and then shows it to the screen. And we can actually print out this entire array. So instead of printing out random game here, we can print out games. And then when we run it and we enter in all of our games like COD and Fall Guys, let's just say 2 for now, we can see it added them in as individual elements into this list, which is awesome. Now, it did include the space because we told it to split directly at the comma, and after the comma, there's a space to include the next word, but it's pretty cool. So there you have it. You can send this to any of your friends. You can send it to your brother or sister because both of you are fighting over whether or not you should have McDonald's or Burger King for dinner that night. And you can enter in all the list of choices and then choose or have the computer choose which one you want to go to. This is really cool and it's pretty simple code. We didn't talk about any crazy concepts here, but I am seeing some questions at codenerd.io, so let's go answer those real quick. So Lucky Tiger, again, random username generated by a program probably pretty similar to this, is asking, what is a library? That is a great great question. A library is a set of code written by somebody else that is actually being used in your file. So the random library is a set of code that somebody else wrote that has all the functions and all the data and everything that we need to do for randomness. And we get access to it by importing it into our file. At the very top here, when we said import random, what we said is we're going to be using the random keyword. We want that to refer to all of the stuff that's in the random library. And then when I use it down here, I said go into the random library, grab the choice function. And Python knows what that is because we told it to import it at the top of the file. Super, super useful. If there's anything in the world that you want to know how to do in Python or you need to do in Python, there's probably a library for it that's already built. You want to deep fry a meme? There's probably a Python library that deep fries memes. You want to build a game? Well, there's Pygame, which is a Python library that allows you to build video games in Python. And you learn how to do that at codenerd.io. So the other question that I'm seeing here, that I see often, I actually don't see it in the chat right now, but if you wanted to ask it, codenerd.io, is what is the difference when we created that list when we were using square brackets? So let's actually back up a little bit here. So when we created this list, we had these square brackets. Well, in Python, we use a couple of different sets of brackets. We use curly brackets. These are to create a dictionary. A dictionary is like a list, but it has a key in front of it. So this is for a dictionary. We also use square brackets to create a list. We use parentheses or round brackets, which are these right here, to fire a function or to store conditions for an if statement, which we'll get into later. Or if you want to learn about it right now, you just want to learn right now, you can head over to codenerd.io and we'll teach you if statements, which are incredibly useful for coding. It is how the computer thinks. Super, super cool. Now, I know what you guys are saying. Cool, I learned how to do this. I can apply it to picking a random video game or a random restaurant to go to or something like that. But when would I use this in the real world? Well, it's time to play. When would I use this? So if we take the project as a whole, this choosing a random item from a list, we can see a couple of distinct possibilities on when to use this. All of the ones that I said before about choosing a restaurant or a movie or something like that to watch, but on a professional standpoint, the way that a lot of people will use something like this is to create random usernames. On codenerd.io, we give you a random username if you choose, or you can create your own. And we're doing this exact thing. We just have multiple lists that we're choosing between and then gluing them together. On this page right here, on Replit, you see this indelible pure priorities. They created that random string by doing this exact thing, creating 3 different lists, picking random things from that list and gluing them together. So this project does have real-world implications and real-world uses. The other thing that we learned, breaking it down, is we learned about libraries. Again, libraries hold all of the knowledge that Python has amassed. Do you want to use some code that engineers at Google wrote? You could probably import it as a library. You want to do machine learning? Import it as a library. You want to do almost anything, you can import it as a library. And you can find a almost exhaustive list of libraries by going to PyPy. PyPy is how you install remote libraries onto your local machine. Now, Replit does this for us by doing its own cool framework, but PyPy allows you access to all of those libraries, or at least a lot of them. There are some private libraries that you only get access to if you're a special person, but I don't want to hang out in those libraries. We also learned about lists. Lists are a great way to list out a list. I mean, what better word for it? That's an awesome thing about Python is they use real words to describe real things of like things. So this is a list of games. I would not put, a movie in here. I would keep it to games. I would also not put my age in here. That would make no sense in this list of games. When you create a list, you want to make sure they're all of the same thing. This random.choice, well, the choice chooses from a list. There is a different way to do this. We could say random underscore num and set that to a random.rand range or rand int. And the rand int will choose a number between 0 and 100. Now, this is awesome. It's going to pick a random number between 0 and 100. But what if we pick 98? We have 5 things in our list. 98 will not give us the result that we need, so this does not scale. This does not change size based on the number of items in your list. But let's say you want to create a game and the enemy does a random amount of damage. Rand int is an awesome way to do that. Then when you choose 98, it does 98 points of damage and your hero dies. Random is awesome. And lastly, we learned print. Print is not often used in the real professional world because a lot of Python programs are not going to print things to the console because a user can't see the console. But if you want to know the value of a variable, you want to check your work as you program, print is an incredible way to do that. It also allows us to do a lot of like text adventure games and debugging and things as we build our program. We're going to learn some other ways to get information out to the user besides just printing it to the console. But that has been how to build an AI that chooses a random game from a list. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that. If you have any questions, you can ask them over at codenerd.io. We check there all the time. Also, you can drop them in the comments. And if you want to suggest something that you want to build next, codenerd.io. We will help you out there. If you have a question, you got anything that you want to build, drop us suggestions over there. Or, maybe in the comments. We'll only check in those occasionally. Awesome. Hopefully you had fun. Hopefully you learned something. If you didn't, well, I don't know what to tell you. Let me know what you want to learn, and I'll teach you that.